at this point, what we know. So to start this update, we'll add that we had an additional victim overnight. It was a 70-year-old female who had been struck by shrapnel while in her car. She took herself to the hospital and she was treated and released. So that's good news. Of the multiple crime scenes that everyone was working yesterday, we are down to 2. So that's also good news. With that being said, I have to again, thank all the local law enforcement, the state officials and the federal officials that came. The resources that have been made available to us is just astronomical and just absolutely appreciated. We also appreciate all the thoughts and prayers from our West Texas community, from the state of Texas and from the United States. Those thoughts and prayers have been pouring in, and those are much appreciated and much needed. I want to go over a short sequence of events for you. A few additional facts that we've learned. So Saturday morning, our suspect went to work at Journey Oilfield Service. He was there for a short time and was terminated by his employer. Right after that firing, he called 911, Odessa Police Department's 911, and so did his employer. And basically they were complaining on each other because they had a disagreement over the firing. He then leaves employment. He leaves his employers before our officers get there. At some point in that, let me back up, not at some point, but a short time before he makes contact with the DPS trooper, he actually calls the FBI National Tip Line, but makes no threats of any type of violence. The DPS trooper contacts him not knowing any of this and attempts to make a traffic stop for a traffic violation. Again, there's no such thing as a routine traffic stop. The subject then proceeds west on I-20. While on I-20, shooting at innocent civilians, creating victims. He enters the city of Odessa and makes his way to 42nd Street here in Odessa, and again shoots multiple civilians, creating victims. In the area of the 3800 block of North Adams, North Dixie, he encounters a postal employee in a postal vehicle and hijacks that vehicle and creates a casualty there. He then continued, let me back up again. At that point is when the vehicle he was in was a gold-colored sedan. He dumps that vehicle at that point and takes the mail truck. This is not a typical mail truck that you're thinking about, that you see. It's a white minivan, is what it is. Okay? He takes that vehicle and continues his shooting spree until he is finally contacted at the Synergy by multiple law enforcement agencies. An exchange of gunfire does ensue, and the threat is eliminated at that point. Please understand that this has been a tremendous collaborative effort. The initial response, number one, by several law enforcement agencies, and obviously you see the number of local, state, and federal agencies here now, and that's, again, awesome. And we'll take questions at this point.
I spoke to a neighbor of his who says that about a month ago, he pointed a rifle at her. She called police. Police did not respond. Do you have record of that? Have you been called out to his home before?
His residence is actually in Ector County and not in the city limits of Odessa, so I'll defer that question to the sheriff.
We can't find any reports of her calling in at this time. We're researching that, and we will release that information when we find it, if we find it.
Sure.
Sir, the governor has stated that the suspect failed a background check in Texas. Is that true? And if so, how did he get the firearm?
I have no idea how he came into possession of this firearm. The ATF is doing that part of this investigation, and as far as I know, at this point in time, that has not been determined. Is there an ATF representative that would like to respond to that?
ATF, in partnership with the FBI, DPS, and all the other federal and local agencies, are aggressively following up on the source of the supply for the firearm on this. This time, we can't release information. As soon as we get to a point where we can, it'll be released.
But you can't confirm that what the governor said, that he failed a background check?
The background check was run through National Instant Criminal System, the NIC system. NIC system did work. He did apply to get a gun, and he was denied a gun.
What's your name, sir?
John Wester.
For the chief,
Yes.
can you explain what happened in the in-between? So in the morning, there are complaints filed against him, and there's obviously arguments between an employer. What happened between that time and the trooper incident?
There are reports of people citing him with a handgun, with a rifle. Those reports did come in. Officers did respond to those areas, and he was just gone. We were unable to locate him.
Was it hard to keep up with him and how quickly he was moving?
Absolutely, it was.
What was the nature of this employer?
I can't tell you that at this point. There was a disagreement, and again, he was terminated from employment. That's all I can tell you.
Follow-up, were the employees have to evacuate the premises? Was there any reason to believe he was coming back to that location?
My understanding is they did not evacuate.
Chief, following up on that, how long was he employed by this person that had hired him? And was he fired from a previous position within the past few weeks or months?
I don't have that information for you right now, but we will follow up with that and get that to you. I believe that is I have heard that is probably true, yes.
That he had been previously fired from a different position?
From a different employer. Yes. Yes.
So was this a coincidence that they pulled him over for a traffic stop, or they were looking for this whole conduct, or they were worried that it was...
The trooper, my understanding is the trooper pulled him over for a traffic violation. They were not actively looking for this particular vehicle.
Right over here?
Yes.
He called this FBI tip line. What exactly did he tell them? And a follow-up after. Go ahead.
I'll let FBI take that.
Sure. He called the national tip line about 15 minutes before his encounter with the troopers. It was, frankly, rambling statements about some of the atrocities that he felt that he had gone through. He did not make a threat during that phone call. He ended that phone call. After the phone call, we initiated all of our law enforcement procedures, trying to figure out who he was, where he was. Unfortunately, it was only 15 minutes before the trooper was engaged.
And Chief, real quick, have y'all found any kind of letter explaining why he then went on this rampage? Like, did you have any kind of letter of suicide or whatever you want to call it?
Again, the DPS, the Texas Rangers, and the FBI are conducting that part of the investigation, and to my knowledge, that nothing of that sort has been found.
What did he tell them?
It's a rambling statement. Absolutely. He rambled a lot in all of his contacts. No threats.
Chief,
Yes.
when the suspect pulled into the Synergy, were officers already on that location? And how long was it from the time that he pulled in until the gunfire was exchanged?
That's part of the ongoing investigation, and I would say it was a very short amount of time from the time he pulled in there till the gunfire was exchanged, but that's some information there that is still being sorted through.
Officers were already on that
The
location?
suspect had a criminal history. Can you tell us about that? Tell us whether that would have stopped him from holding a firearm.
The criminal history, we can't be specific about his criminal history. I will tell you the interactions that he's had with the Odessa Police Department have been of very minor incidents that would not have had any impact on his ability on the firearm.
Can you tell us what time he was in Synergy and stopped, so we have an idea of how long this went on?
Again, I can't give you the exact times at this point. We're still parsing through all of that.
Time, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock?
I don't have that with me. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Sir, regarding his dispute with the employer, was there any idea why he needed law enforcement to intervene in that dispute? Why it was a matter for law enforcement to, for him to direct that to?
Well, obviously, and I can't speak to his motives why he called, but we commonly field calls that are not of a law enforcement nature, that are of a peacekeeping nature between neighbors, between co-workers, that sort of thing, where we just step in and calm the situation down. Blessed are the peacemakers, right? Yes.
We've got time for about 3 more questions. So give us 1 minute. We're thinking about the showing of hands. We'll go with number 1 in the green shirt, number 2 back here, and number 3 in the shirt. So number 1, go ahead.
Very Chief, yesterday we spoke about how this is a multi-agency effort.
Yes.
There are some concerns that there might have been some issues with sharing information. Could you address that?
I don't have any concerns with sharing information. I don't know where that came from, but it didn't come from me, so I've had no issues with that. Where did that come from?
We were just told that there were some issues with encrypted reports and sharing information, so.
To my knowledge, I have had no issues.
Was there a moral issue?
I-
Or like, and was it?
We have
We're gonna go
a
with
list
the
of
second question,
questions.
ma'am, over here.
I think what she was trying to say was, when listening to the scanner recordings after they were released, I think there was some trouble communicating with NPD and OPD, maybe because of the encrypted messages that were in there. Do you guys ever plan on maybe sharing your radio stream at all?
That's funny that you ask. I have had conversations with Midland Police Department over joining the radio system. So yeah, that is something that should happen in the future.
And last question, the gentleman in the blue shirt.
Yeah, Chief, quickly, I'm just wondering if you can tell us whether there's any evidence of planning, whether you had the gun with him already when he was fired on Saturday morning, and also I'm just wondering what are the 2 scenes that you're still working on?
The first part of that question, so 2 questions, right? So you cheated, but the first part is that, as far as motive and if he had those weapons with him, that is a part of the ongoing investigation that we just don't feel comfortable talking about at this point. Motive, again, who will ever know what motive is, because the only way to determine that is if we could talk to him, and we can't. Our 2 ongoing scenes, I'll defer that to you. Pick.
I don't even know what
I believe Freedom Pontiac and
There
And
were
Synergy.
2 scenes in the city that are
Yes.
still ongoing, and
Yes.
there's still active investigations.
Is the home still being searched?
that would be an FBI.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear your question.
Is his property still being searched?
No, we completed the search of his property yesterday. We're going through that. I know a number of you have been out there. It's a very strange residence. It's very small. I can tell you the conditions reflect what we believe his mental state was going into this. Again, just to echo on something that the chief said, he was on a long spiral of going down. He didn't wake up Saturday morning and walk into his company and then it happened. He went to that company in trouble. He's probably been in trouble for a while, which is why we've been reaching out. I talked to some of you yesterday about we really need the public's help to reach out to us when they see people in that downward spiral that may be on that road to violence. And part of that too, holding some documents here, if you go to the FBI.gov website, there's a whole section there on active shooters. We just released a very detailed analysis of 62 active shooters in the last number of years that really talk about this road to violence and this an unfortunate condition where these people are in trouble and they continue to go down a road of some mental problems there.
Is it true that you didn't have electricity and running water in the property?
I don't know if that's accurate, to be honest with you.
With the FBI,
That's it, that's all, it's all.
well, I think
Everyone's
Well, I think
Sir, it's Christopher Combs. I'm the FBI Special Agent in charge. Thank you.
We're out of time. If you'll remain seated for just a minute, we'll give you some instructions. Thank you all very much for attending. We're going to break and do so. If y'all just keep your seats. We're going to give them a break and allow some one-on-one interviews. But we're going to break you up into groups because there's so many of you. So if you'll just give us a moment, we'll get to that in just a second. So just keep your seats. Yes, ma'am. So the chief is Mike Wilger.